David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another fountain pen review. When I first started in this hobby, saying that a fountain pen was made in India did not elicit the most positive of feelings. While there were many low-cost offerings coming from the country, they weren't necessarily stylish or the highest quality, and often the resin had a distinctive odor that wasn't very pleasant. Well, I will have to say that over these last few years, there have been some Indian manufacturers who have stepped up their game and produced some good-looking, good quality, non-odorous pens. One of those companies is Vazir. I have previously reviewed two of their pens on the channel, and I was significantly impressed by both. They both look great, performed well, and they also had a reasonable price. So those are three very positive things. Well, today I have another offering to share with you from Vazir. This time it is a pen called the Lizard Skin. What I'm going to do today is go over the parts and features of this celluloid offering, talk about what I care for and what I don't care for about it. I'll show some measurements, size comparisons, and perform a writing sample with one of their very cool hand-engraved nibs. Big thanks go out to Vazir for providing the pen you will see today on loan for review. On another note, I will be attending the DC show coming up here at the end of the month. As I have done the last couple of years, I'll be giving a seminar. I believe that it'll be at 1 p.m. on the Saturday of the show. If you would care to attend, I would suggest getting there a little bit early as the room can fill up. This year I'll be doing some Q&A, and there might be some giveaways, and then traditionally I've started my seminars with a magic trick. So if that sounds interesting to you, I'd love to see you there. It's completely free with your admission to the show. Okay, in order to get a closer look at this pen, please join me over here at camera 2. The pen arrives in this nice wooden box. It has the company name embossed here on the front. And inside we have a little bit of information about the company as well as the pen. And then inside there we have a little kimono sleeve. Let me get everything else out of the way. And here is the pen. This is the Vazir Lizard Skin. It's available in two different colors, the green or the blue. It's also available in two different trims, the chrome trim or gold. While I typically prefer chrome or silver colored trim on my pens, I went with the gold on this one just because I thought that it matched the green a little bit better. This is a celluloid material, and there's some aspects of it that I really like. In certain aspects here, it is a little bit darker, certain areas, but then when you move it, you can see there's a bit more chatoyance in this checkerboard pattern, and you can actually see some of the lines between the squares. And especially here on the barrel, you can see where the different pieces that were put together to make this rod are kind of going in a number of directions, and it just creates a nice, interesting look to it. I just think it has a little bit of life to it. In regard to the parts and features of this pen, the top of the cap is flat. It does have a nice rounded edge. This transitions into the clip. It's a nice rounded clip, a wheeled clip. And that I've always been a big fan of the wheeled clips. I just think they look cool. And this one has enough tension or a lack of tension so that it works in a variety of thicknesses of material. The cap tapers up, and then it straightens out for about the last inch. Then there is a rounded step down between the cap and the barrel, which it makes for a nice transition. And then the barrel slowly tapers down at a fairly even rate of decline until you get to the end where it is again flat. The cap twists off with about 2 1/4 rotations, and underneath is one of my favorite things about this pen, which is this amazing engraved nib. Now, Vazir is the name for the queen in chess in Hindi, and that is why this is engraved on the nib, and that's the company's logo. Let me see how close I can get here, but the engraving is nice. You can really tell that it's hand done. Let me see if I can not be so jumpy here. But I think what I really like is the dimpling around the queen. I just think that that dimpling looks really cool. If you look at it up close, you can see that it's hand done. And I like that. I like that aspect about it, that you really get the feeling like someone took their time to engrave this nib. It's pretty cool. And then here's a look at the plastic feed. The section begins with a small flare and then is decently thick, and it transitions then into the cap threads, which are resin. I don't find to be thick or sharp at all or uncomfortable. And then I'd say a medium to large step up to the remainder of the barrel. This, like I mentioned, this section is a bit on the thicker side, which I do prefer. And I feel that this pen is fairly well balanced in the hand. I'd say it's like a medium-sized pen. And that I don't feel that this transition or the threads get in the way at all. Even if you grip your pen a little bit further back, I still don't feel that they'll get in the way. This pen does post. And it does post securely. I don't know if I necessarily think it's the best look. It kind of has a little bit of that mushroom look that I'm not super fond of, but I prefer to use this pen unposted. This is a cartridge converter pen. It accepts standard and international cartridges, and a Schmidt converter is provided. This nib is available in a fine, medium, broad, a double broad, as well as a 1.1 stub. Okay, in regard to price, which is, I think, a highlight of Vazir in this pen, the price for this pen by itself, the standard version, is $110. And I think that that is a very reasonable price to pay for what you receive with this pen. The engraved nib on its own is $145. And to get a handcrafted piece of artwork like that, I think is a very reasonable price as well. So if you combine those two, $255 for this pen with that engraved nib, I think is a reasonable price to pay for something like that. But if you could do without that nib, even just $110 for this pen is a very good price. Okay, let's go ahead and do some some measurements, and then we'll come back with some size comparisons and a writing sample. Okay, here we go with some size comparisons for the Vazir lizard skin. In regard to a couple of pens that I had reviewed from them previously, this one here that can barely fit in the frame was called the Horizon. I just thought that was a really cool resin that was on this pen. And then also here is the Meteor Shower, which again is another celluloid offering. And this one had another engraved nib on it, which kind of is a floral theme, or just kind of swirls, which are cool as well. So I do like the queen, but then this one looks really nice as well. And then this is what it looks like with a Momento Magico from Leonardo. And then in regard to some other pens, here it is with a Pilot Custom 823. And then here it is with a Sailor Pro Gear. That's the one in Imperial Black. And then here's a pen I recently reviewed from Kilk. This is the Celestial. And this is the Red Abalone, which was a really cool Jonathan Brooks material. But that's what it looks like in comparison. In regard to uncapped comparisons, this is what it looks like with the 823 and the Sailor Pro Gear. And then finally, here it is with that Horizon. I'll actually move that over so you can see it. But you can see the Horizon is a significantly large pen. So here we have the Vazir lizard skin. And this is a medium stainless steel nib. Now, in regard to ink, I wanted to use kind of a lizard or snake-themed green ink. And what I came up with was Montegrappa. And this is Slytherin Green. This is what the ink looks like. It's a nice, deep, kind of saturated green. This is what it looks like in comparison to Guitar Lady Emerald, which has been one of my favorite greens lately. And then here it is with Diamine's November Rain. This is what the bottle looks like. It's a little confusing because the label is blue, but the ink is green. I kind of like it when the label matches the color that's within. But I do enjoy these bottles, and the ink is nice as well. And here we go with the rest of the writing sample. That I will say that this is a decently smooth nib with just a bit of feedback. You're not going to get a lot of line variation out of this stainless steel nib, but I find it very pleasant to use. I'd say the ink flow is very generous on this particular nib. And even though when I swiped it, it didn't swipe that much, it feels like it's a little bit more generous. In regard to reverse writing, it is a bit scratchy, but it does lay down an extra fine line. And then in regard to some fast writing, the feed keeps up very well. So there we have the Vazir lizard skin. I will put a link in the notes below where you can check this out at the Vazir website. I would highly recommend it. It is a company that has some really interesting models and at a fairly reasonable price. And then actually, I didn't even point that out, but at the end you can see the name is just subtly engraved on the end of this barrel as well. As I mentioned, this pen is $110. The engraved nib is $145. So even the full package of getting both of these for $255, I think, is reasonable for what you receive. So until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.